We all know and love the clone troopers of the Grand Army of the Republic, who were without a doubt some of the finest soldiers the galaxy ever saw. Their armor, their bravery, and their fierce loyalty to the Republic were all quite memorable. But there were others before them who wore similar armor and who were just as brave and loyal. We're talking about the Republic troopers, elite soldiers that fought for the Republic against the true Sith Empire. These ancient badasses lived in dangerous times and didn't just have battle droids and meatbag soldiers to deal with. Republic troopers often had to go toe-to-toe with actual Sith, and now and again, they won those fights. But how was this possible, you might ask? How could mere humans with blasters and battle armor defeat full-fledged Sith? In this video, we'll be answering that question.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Throughout the era of the Old Republic, the Republic Army went through quite a few different kinds of soldier. Most of the time, the Republic relied on simple recruited soldiers and armies of battle droids, but now and again, the Republic Army made use of some tougher units. The rocket jumpers, who we've done a video on before, were perhaps the most well-known of the Republic's elite soldiers, but a new elite unit came to prominence during the Great Galactic War, the Republic Troopers. In the Great Galactic War, the Republic found itself under attack from the Empire of the True Sith, which had been planning a massive galactic-scale assault for over 1,000 years. The shadowy Sith Emperor had hordes of well-trained soldiers, vast fleets of warships, and legions of Sith warriors at his command, and the Republic, even with the support of the Jedi, was outmatched. For support, it turned to the Republic Troopers, a unit of shock troops formed shortly before the war began. These Republic Troopers played a role similar to the Stormtroopers of the Galactic Empire. They weren't the rank and files of the army, but rather an elite unit reserved for special missions. They were extremely well trained and well equipped, and were nearly as skilled as the clones of the GAR would be millennia later. They were trained in both ranged combat and close quarters combat, and were taught commando tier survival skills. Republic military planners hoped they would become the most advanced force in the galaxy. The equipment of these elite troopers wasn't lacking either. Unlike rank and file Republic soldiers, Republic troopers wore full body plastoid armor sets, which resembled those worn by the clones and stormtroopers of later generations. These suits were about as protective as clone armor later would be, but this meant much more in the days of the Great Galactic War, when the average blaster was far less powerful than it was 3,000 years later. As a result, Republic trooper armor rendered its wearer practically invulnerable to bolts from most blasters, and it did an extremely good job at keeping the wearer safe from explosions too. Republic troopers were also equipped with what were, for their time, extremely powerful weapons. Their arsenals were packed full of high-powered blaster rifles, chain guns, and portable grenade launchers. Most of these weapons were bulky and extremely heavy, which made them impractical for all but the strongest of beings. Fortunately, Republic troopers were trained to be incredibly strong and thus had a relatively easy time lugging around weapons that most civilians couldn't even pick up. Republic troopers also made use of a variety of grenades, as well as vibroblades. There were several specializations within the Republic troopers, most of them for extra elite units. Members of the Republic Special Forces Division, who represented the very best of the Republic's troopers, fell into this category. Troopers in the Special Forces were known to have gone toe-to-toe with Sith Lords and won, usually through the use of clever tactics. Vanguard troopers were another specialization, equipped with all but impregnable heavy armor and sent out into the fiercest of fighting. Vanguard troopers were practically berserkers, known to ignore personal risk in combat and fight to the death. Despite this, they had a high survival rate as their equipment was top tier and their skill was all but unparalleled. Commandos were the only other known specialization for Republic troopers. These troopers carried massive blaster cannons, which they used to lay waste to anything that stood between them and a Republic victory. Republic troopers first rose to prominence in the Battle of Bothawui during the Great Galactic War in which a detachment of them fought to the last man under Jedi Master Belth Alusis, dealing heavy casualties to their Sith opponents. This prompted the Republic to increase funding for the training and arming of New Republic troopers, which they hoped would help turn the tide of the war. But while Republic troopers were instrumental in victories like the Battle of Alderaan, they were ultimately unable to prevent the sacking of Coruscant and the Republic's defeat in the war. But the Republic didn't give up after the end of the Great Galactic War, nor did its elite soldiers. During the Cold War that followed the sacking of Coruscant, the numbers of Republic troopers swelled with new recruits, and the Special Forces Division was created for fear that the war with the Sith would soon resume. It did, of course, and in the Galactic War and the many conflicts that followed, the Republic troopers stood firm against the Sith, the Eternal Empire, and all other enemies of the Republic. The Republic's enemies soon learned to beware of these armored warriors. Even Sith were known to fear Republic troopers, as many Sith were slain by them. Without the Republic troopers, the Republic may not have even survived that era of turmoil. It should be pretty clear by this point that the Republic troopers were highly skilled and well armed. But was that really all it took to bring down a Sith? I mean, think back to Star Wars: The Clone Wars. The Republic's clone troopers were pretty damn tough, and yet they were shown time and time again to stand zero chance against the likes of Asajj Ventress, who wasn't even a real Sith. In fact, of all the Dark Acolytes and Fallen Jedi who fought against the Republic in the Clone Wars, not a single one of them was ever killed by a clone. Imagine how they would have fared against a real Sith Lord, like Count Dooku. Were the Republic troopers just that much better than clones? No, in fact, the opposite was true. The Sith of that era were just that much worse than even the Dark Acolytes. Remember that there's a difference between just being a Sith and being a Sith Lord after all. The Sith Lords were the most powerful students of the dark side, while the Sith that largely composed the armies of the Empire were warriors or inquisitors, lesser Darksiders treated like soldiers instead of lords. As Darth Sidious once said, warriors are like animals. Agents like Darth Maul have their uses, but can never expand beyond their limited set of tasks. That's not all though. Despite being ideologically descended from the cult known as the True Sith, the Sith of the reconstituted Sith Empire had strayed far from the true Sith ways by the time of the Great Galactic War, and strayed even further as time went on. The Sith Emperor, Darth Vitiate, cared only about himself and disregarded the Sith ways entirely when it suited him. As the Sith ways weren't really suitable for empire building, since functional states required a degree of unity that the dark side couldn't offer, Vitiate didn't indoctrinate his followers in the ways of the Sith as much as he indoctrinated them with a blind nationalism. There are examples of Sith in Vitiate's empire that either came around to the light side or walked dangerously close to the path of the light and retained their ranks and the respect of their followers. There were many Sith whose loyalty to the empire came before their loyalty to themselves or their quests for power. This would have absolutely disgusted true Sith Lords. After all, the way of the Sith was to put one's own power before all other things, and to do anything else was to go against the most fundamental principle of the dark side. Additionally, all of this made the Sith of Vitiate's empire much weaker, as many of those Sith just weren't evil enough to become strong in the dark side. In many ways, Vitiate's Sith were just a dark version of the Jedi Order. This was simply not a good arrangement for Darksiders, and the performance of these Sith against Republic troopers is a shining example of why that was the case. Many of the Sith the Republic troopers were up against could use lightsabers and the Force, but they had no real ambition and no real passion aside from blind loyalty to their Emperor. They had no fuel to feed the fires of the dark side with. No wonder Republic troopers were able to kill them. So that's our look at the Republic troopers, the soldiers of the old Republic that could take down Sith. But what do you think? Are you interested in more topics from this era? Feel free to post your thoughts in the comment section below.